All right, hello, welcome back, everybody. PayPal and Patreon are down below if you want to support me. Only do so if you actually can. So just uploading something quick for you guys while I'm working on all those different graphs and some larger videos, and while waiting for all the different data sets for this month to come out. This time we're looking at who one of the largest exporters, Saudi Arabia, sends their oil to predominantly. Now, this is the general average breakdown. There is some miscellaneous stuff sprinkled in. Like you'll see that 10 days out of the year on any given year, they sent a tanker shipment to Vietnam or they sent one to South Africa. But in general, most of the large major exporters have patterns and contract countries that they stick to. So Saudi Arabia, normally holding a 10 million barrel per day plateau of production, now holding a 9 million barrel per day plateau that they're not coming back up from, as they have ordered the OPEC production cuts continually for the last couple of years to remain effectively permanent. There's a link in the corner, and probably YouTube puts those under the description now as well, to a video talking about why that is. But nowadays, Saudi Arabia is holding a flat 9 million barrel per day plateau for the most part, and 2.5 million barrels per day of that is their own domestic consumption, their own demand level. So that leaves obviously about 6.5 million barrels per day of exports roughly heading out on massive oil tankers. About 2 million barrels per day out of that 6.5 of exports heads to China perpetually. One of the many daily shipments China needs to receive from various source countries to fill the gap between its flatlined domestic production of 4 million barrels per day and its domestic consumption levels, which are heading upwards from 16 towards 17. Another 1 million barrels per day on average heads from Saudi Arabia to South Korea. And then accompanying that, another 1 million barrels per day or so, roughly, is also sent to their neighbor across the sea, Japan. Another 1 million barrels per day, roughly on average, or just a bit under it, makes the very short journey out of the Persian Gulf just across the Arabian Sea to India. That remaining 1.5 breaks down two ways. Again, mostly 750,000 barrels per day or so, usually heads out to Taiwan, and then about 750,000 or so heads around the Arabian Peninsula and up to Europe. Europe's average imports from Saudi Arabia actually used to be higher, as you'll find in that now technically outdated Where Does Europe Get Its Oil From Now video. They used to be importing about 1.5 million barrels per day. However, the market's shifted a bit, and Europe is getting more from elsewhere, such as expanded exports from Brazil, as Brazil's oil production, since that video at least, has increased, while Brazil's domestic oil consumption, their own demand, has continued decreasing, and instead of averaging their prior 2.4, which was already down from their height of 2.8, as their oil consumption has been following their economy downwards, a rather steep slope over the last decade or decade and a half, as you can see from this graph of their GDP adjusted for inflation. Their oil consumption has followed their economy downwards, and so they've declined now to only consuming on average about 2.1 million barrels per day. Plus, Guyana's third field came online in the last 4 months since that video, and Nigeria, who's always been one of Europe's primary suppliers, was able to see its decaying production restored from close to only 1 million barrels per day back up to now closer to 1.4. So anyways, that's the breakdown of Saudi Arabia's exports, at least as of most recently, along with some of that bonus info thrown in as well. That will be it for this one. Thank you everybody for sticking around and listening. Like if you enjoyed, subscribe if you haven't already. PayPal and Patreon are down there if you want to support me. Only do so if you actually can. There's a link in the description to a Google Drive folder full of different docs containing graphs, charts, write-ups, all kinds of data compilations and stuff that I put together for you guys. It's completely free. You can even use it in your own videos or whatever if you want. A link to my cat's channel will be in the top pinned comment as well. May God bless and protect all of you, and I will see you all around next time.